believe that only about 53% of people trust business. So we have a lot of work to do in building trust with our consumers. So when you look further, you look at what it is that influences trust with consumers. What do they say would actually improve their trust in a business? So I'm going to just focus on a couple of them. Engagement, from a big grouping. Engagement. They treat their employees well. They listen to their customer needs. And they place customers ahead of profits. As a family organization, we can take a very long-term view. We are not bound by quarterly financial reports. We take a long-term vision, and we can impact, and we can invest over a longer term. Integrity. We very much value integrity. You will see in not only that we talk about it, but you're going to see in a lot of the actions how important and critical it is for SC Johnson to be seen that we operate with integrity. Products. You know, it all comes down to the products that we offer, and our products need to deliver what our consumers and what you all are expecting our products to deliver. Purpose. There has to be a purpose. We've heard, obviously, the conference is activating purpose. So there has to be a purpose for our business beyond our products. And this is where looking to protect and improve the environment, programs in our communities. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But one of our key pillars as an organization is to make sure that every community we operate in is better because we were there. And that is a key principle, and it drives what we do within our local communities. And then, as most companies look at our operations, we want to make sure that the things that we're doing, how we're producing them, and how we operate, both in our manufacturing and our office facilities, that we're doing it with the best intent. So what does it all summarize to? We view this as our responsibility and being transparent about what we do as a business. So we take the responsibility, and we're going to share with you what we're doing. So SC Johnson has been focused on responsibility for many, many, many years. It is ingrained in the family, and it is ingrained in the company. There won't be too many people that you will find at SC Johnson that don't know the priority that sustainability plays in the organization. We have in our headquarters over 130 people that are dedicated just to sustainability, whether it's in our operations, in our R&D organization working with chemistry, in our communications, all throughout the company. Some of the key dates for us is we worked on developing CFC-free aerosols back in 1975. This was prior to any regulation that asked and required CFC-free aerosols. We were ahead of the game. Sam Johnson at the time was challenged. Why are you doing this? You're setting a new standard for the industry. And so he was a forerunner for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about our green list, how we select the ingredients that go in our products. And we did a number of things on our package design. We also have spent a lot of time in our factories in developing plans and programs around renewable energy. How do we generate, in unique ways, energy that powers some of our plants? One of those, we were the first company to put in a cogen turbine. So we take the landfill gas, the methane gas coming out of our local landfill, and we pipe that into our manufacturing facility, and it generates energy. So we're pulling methane gas and converting it into energy that helps operate one of our largest plants. We also installed wind turbines. The first one we installed was in the Netherlands, and we just installed 2 more in our headquarters at our largest manufacturing facility. That's about almost 40 football fields long. So Soccer, I looked it up, football for you, it's about the same length. Soccer's a little wider, but if you can imagine, 40 soccer fields is about the size of our largest manufacturing. So we're pulling the methane gas off the landfill, and we have 2 very large wind turbines that produce almost all of the energy and electricity needed to run that facility. You can see there that we've launched a number of unique products as well. Concentrates, we have a compostable Ziploc bag that are offered on some of our websites, and I'll talk a little bit more about the other ones as we go through this. I want to talk first about our greenlist process. So when we develop products, it's critical for us, again, as we think about the next generation, that we offer products that have as little impact on the environment that they possibly can. And this is an internal SC Johnson process. We require that our R&D, our scientists, our formulators, are always looking for better alternatives to the chemicals and the materials we put into our products. So let me tell you a little bit about this. So this goes beyond creating safe, industry-safe products, way beyond that. There's safety, and then there's SC Johnson's look at how those products impact the environment. So what we do in our greenlist process, we take a look at all of the ingredients, all of the raw materials that come into our portfolio, and we score them. It's either best, better, good, or we call them 0 rated. 0 rated are restricted use materials that you cannot use in our portfolio. Obviously, as a 130-year-old company, we have some products that we are definitely looking to reformulate, but none of those materials can go into any new products. And anytime a formulator improves or touches or does some work against a product, they must always pick raw materials that increase the score of our internal rating system. So we track those scores, and you're going to see how we've done in just a minute. So we have improved, as you can see. We track our better best scores, and we are over 50% of our materials are in our better best scores, and we have decreased our 0 restricted use materials to a very, very low level. You will see 2011, we had a little bit of both. That was because we started to include our packaging materials in addition to our ingredients. So we also created a system by which we must rate every package material, not just primary package, secondary and tertiary package as well. Often those measures are around recycling, recycled content, standards in the facility, having an ISO certification, having good environmental practices from our suppliers. So the overall improved, this splits out just our raw materials, and you can see from our ingredients and our chemistry, we also have improved from 18% better best to 52% since 2000 when we first implemented the greenlist process. On our packaging, as I just mentioned, we've been able to also improve our better best materials from 43% up to 56%. Transparency, as I talked about integrity, transparency is a really large focus for us. We believe that giving consumers information that allows them to make informed decisions about what they choose is a very important criteria for us as we offer products to consumers. So the first thing we did was we launched in the US our ingredient disclosure site. It included all of the ingredients in our products down to what we considered a general fragrance. So it said it contained fragrance. Our next step, if that wasn't enough for us, is we put down, if you had a fragrance in your product, you could see the palette of fragrances that we use in our products, so you can see all of the different ingredients that might be in that fragrance. In 2015, we actually took that palette and brought it over and said specifically what ingredients are in that fragrance. So that might seem like a big deal, but when you're working with fragrance houses that have a lot of trade secret and don't want to share a lot of their ingredients, it was a huge milestone for us to work with them to allow us to disclose those ingredients. Again, all about year, we launched our very first, the industry very first, 100% transparent fragrance. So we worked with a fragrance house that was willing to give every component of a fragrance in our Blade product. We just expanded to our European ingredient disclosure site, and we're continuing to expand that throughout the globe. Asia, Latin America, you will see coming very soon. We also do a lot of advocacy. We work with governments, we work with local communities, and we're going to talk about this specifically in Buenos Aires in just a moment. But again, just like those CFCs, we, as one of the largest aerosol manufacturers, we are very committed to reuse, recycle, and so there was not aerosol recycling allowed in the US at the time, and we knew that consumers were concerned about that because they couldn't put it in their recycle bin. So we went out and we debunked a number of myths around recycling aerosol cans. There was concern, in the recycling facility, there was some risks, what if they blew up? And we went out and proved that this would not happen, and we worked with local governments so that now we can put Please Recycle on our aerosol products, and the majority of the communities will accept them. It also allowed for us to preempt any state legislation that would have banned aerosols. So let me talk a little bit about, as I talked about, commitment to chemistry, commitment to our communities. So we also have a principle, as I mentioned earlier, that we expect that every community that we are in and that we operate in, we're 70 countries, is a better community because SC Johnson has been there. And so we focus on 6 key pillars as we give back to the community. We focus on health and wellness. We're going to talk a little bit about that in Buenos Aires. Community and economic development, we're going to talk about that. Social services, education, environment, as we talked about, some horticulture, and then some donation of products when it's particularly during some disasters. So what are we doing in the Southern Cone? The Southern Cone is made up of Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay. So in that, what we consider our Southern Cone, we are doing a number of initiatives, and again, as I mentioned earlier, our focus, 3 of those areas for here in this area is health and home. So it's looking at how do we improve home conditions for families. We're developing initiatives around health and hygiene. We'll talk about this specifically in just a minute. We're looking at recycling systems. As again, as I told you about our advocacy around aerosol recycling, there's work to be done here as well. And part of that is often creating infrastructure in facilities that don't have the infrastructure to process a lot of those materials. And then it's working with people in those communities to try and develop habits as well. So it's not just putting the infrastructure in, but it's changing consumer behavior as well. It surprises me when I ask my friends sometimes whether or not they recycle, and they say no. And I think, what? What is that about? I like the social pressure, though. I think that's a great idea. If we all just recycle in our neighborhoods and look at our neighbors and ask them why they're not recycling, maybe that will get the whole social pressure building up. So we also do a lot around education. You're going to see that education around the environment, education to make citizens more employable, particularly in some of the areas. So let's get specific into some of those things that are going on in this area here. We are working very, very hard on educating around disease-carrying insects. So you will see with our off products, one of our biggest initiatives is we are working in Africa to fight malaria, and we're working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation there. They do a lot of donations around mosquito nets. So we are doing a lot of work to prove that in addition to having a mosquito net, that having an area repellent in your home multiplies the effect of the protection. And again, a lot of that is around education. So we're working with Techo here in this area, again, to look at areas that are most vulnerable and really educate on how people and residents in those areas can protect themselves. Zika is another one, as I'm sure you've all read about and heard about, is another area where we're doing as much as we can to educate on how residents can protect themselves. In terms of the environment, here in Buenos Aires, we've done a lot of work around recycling and trying to encourage recycling. And not just with people in the communities, but we've gone in and actually looked at recycling facilities. We put in infrastructure, so particularly around our tin aerosol cans, that now a lot of the hand picking, the hand pulling, we put equipment in so they can actually process it, and the equipment actually separates it for them and puts it into its own facility or its own bin, all separated, and then it actually creates a nice square bale once it's been compressed that can be sold out to other buyers. And I talked about also working with education and creating a society, a community that has a more highly employable, younger population. And so we're working with Orange there, and it's going into high schools, it's providing classes, it's providing skills, it's providing technical knowledge. It's a very strong commitment that the high schoolers must make in terms of hours in the classroom. And at the end of the program, the intent is that they have a higher likelihood of employability. So all of this, not only what SC Johnson is looking at from a global perspective and how we can impact the world globally in all of our different pillars, but as an example here of how we're doing that locally. And again, all of that ladders up to our commitment to responsibility and transparency. Thank you.